Before anyone judges me, please understand, it was a joke. Yes, I said it at the worst possible time. Yes, the microphone was on. Yes, people laughed. But I didn't expect my husband to turn to the crowd, smile, and say, "Well then, let's fix that." And I really didn't expect him to call his brother up to the altar, in front of everyone. I'm standing frozen right now, bouquet shaking in my hands, the entire wedding turning toward me. 300 guests, all watching, all waiting, all witnessing what might be the most humiliating moment of my life. And it's my fault. Completely my fault. Because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Couldn't just say normal vows like a normal person. Had to make a joke. Had to be funny. Had to destroy my own wedding with one stupid sentence. Before we start, like, subscribe, hit hype to boost this episode, and comment your city or country below. I love seeing where everyone's watching from. Let me explain how we got here because I need you to understand that I'm not a monster. I'm not someone who genuinely wanted to marry his brother. I'm just someone with terrible timing and worse judgment who made a joke at the absolute worst moment and is now paying the price in the most public, humiliating way possible. The ceremony was already tense. I could feel it from the moment I started walking down the aisle. His family watching me like hawks. His mother's tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. His father's crossed arms. His brother looking uncomfortable in his best man suit. They'd never fully accepted me. Never thought I was good enough for their son. Never welcomed me the way a family should welcome someone marrying into it. And I knew that, felt that, carried that weight as I walked toward my future husband standing at the altar. He looked handsome, nervous, a little pale. We'd had a fight the night before. Nothing major, just pre-wedding stress, cold feet, normal stuff. But it left this tension between us, this unspoken worry, this question of whether we were actually ready for this, whether we should actually be doing this, whether we were making a mistake. And standing there at the altar, looking at him, I felt that doubt creeping in. The officiant started the ceremony. Traditional words, beautiful setting, outdoor wedding with white chairs and rose petals, and a perfect golden sunset behind us. Everything looked magazine perfect, picture perfect, Instagram perfect. Except the energy was wrong. The feeling was wrong. Something was off, and I couldn't name it, but I could feel it vibrating through every person present. The officiant went through the standard opening. Asked if anyone objected. Nobody did, though I swear I felt his mother shift in her seat. Asked if we came willingly. We both said yes, though his voice was quieter than I expected. And then came the part where we were supposed to say a few words. Personal vows. Heartfelt promises. The moment everyone was waiting for. I went first, and I was nervous. So nervous my hands were shaking. So nervous my voice cracked. So nervous I couldn't think straight. And when I get nervous, I make jokes. It's my defense mechanism. My way of dealing with stress. My completely inappropriate coping strategy that has gotten me into trouble my entire life. And today, at my wedding, in front of 300 people, it got me into the biggest trouble yet. I tried to start with something heartfelt. I love you. I choose you. I'm so grateful to be standing here with you. Standard stuff. Good stuff. The right stuff. But then I saw his family's faces, saw his mother's skeptical expression, saw his father's disapproving stare, saw his brother's uncomfortable shifting. And I panicked. Felt the need to lighten the mood. Felt the need to make people laugh. Felt the need to break the tension with humor. So I added a joke. A stupid, thoughtless, completely inappropriate joke. I laughed. Actually laughed during my vows, and I said, well, at least I didn't marry his brother instead. A few guests laughed. Nervous laughter. Awkward laughter. The kind of laughter that says, did she really just say that? His brother looked down at his shoes. His mother gasped audibly. His father's face went red. The officiant blinked rapidly, like he was trying to process what he'd just heard. And my almost husband just stared at me. No expression, no reaction, just stared. And in that moment, I realized I'd messed up, badly, catastrophically. I'd made a joke that wasn't funny, that was inappropriate, that implied something terrible, that suggested I'd considered his brother as an option, that made our wedding about someone else, that disrespected him in the most public way possible. And I couldn't take it back, couldn't undo it, couldn't fix it. "I'm kidding," I said quickly. "Obviously, that was a joke. A bad joke. Sorry, I'm just nervous. Let me start over." But the damage was done. The words were out there. The guests had heard, his family had heard, and most importantly, he had heard. And the way he was looking at me, it wasn't love. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't understanding. It was something cold, something calculating, something that scared me. He didn't yell, didn't react emotionally, didn't storm off. He just stood there for a moment, silent, processing, deciding. And then, slowly, deliberately, he turned to face the crowd, lifted the microphone to his mouth, and said, in a voice so calm it was terrifying, "If that's what she wants, let's ask him." Everyone froze. Complete silence. 300 people holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next, waiting to see if this was also a joke, waiting to see if the wedding would continue or implode right here at the altar. And I stood there, bouquet trembling in my hands, knowing I'd started something I couldn't stop. He called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Daniel, come up here." His brother, the best man, standing down in front with the rest of the wedding party, looking absolutely horrified, shaking his head slightly, mouthing no where only I could see. But my almost husband insisted, "Daniel, now, please." And the crowd started whispering, started filming, started witnessing what was about to become the most talked about wedding disaster in our city's history. Daniel looked to his father. His father tried to stop him, put a hand on his shoulder, whispered something urgent, but my almost husband called again. "Daniel, brother, come up here. She wants to know if she made the right choice. Let's give her clarity." And the way he said it, the calmness, the control, the absolute certainty that this was the right move, it made everything so much worse. Daniel started walking, slowly, reluctantly, each step up the aisle feeling like an eternity. Guests turning to watch him pass, phones rising to capture the moment, whispers spreading like wildfire. "What's happening? Is this part of the ceremony? Did she really say that? Is he really doing this?" The energy shifted from wedding celebration to public spectacle, from joyful occasion to car crash you can't look away from. I wanted to stop it, wanted to scream, "This is all a misunderstanding," wanted to grab my almost husband and shake him and make him see that I was joking. Just making a stupid, thoughtless, completely inappropriate joke. But I couldn't move, couldn't speak, could only stand there frozen while his brother approached the altar, while 300 people watched, while my wedding turned into a nightmare. The scene was surreal, cinematic, like something out of a movie. The packed outdoor wedding with perfect lighting, the golden sunset creating dramatic shadows, the white chairs filled with witnesses, the rose petals scattered across the ground, and 3 people at the altar, me in my white dress, my almost husband in his suit, and now his brother joining us, all of us standing there in this bizarre triangle, all of us knowing this moment would define everything that came after. Daniel reached the altar, face red, breathing hard, looking between us with complete confusion. "What are you doing?" he whispered. "This isn't funny, this is insane." But my almost husband handed him the microphone. Actually handed it to him. Like this was planned. Like this was normal. Like forcing your brother to participate in your wedding destruction was just another part of the ceremony. "She said she should have married you. my almost husband announced to the crowd. Loud, clear, letting everyone hear, letting everyone know exactly why we were here, exactly what I'd said, exactly what was about to happen. So, let's hear if you agree. Would you have married her? Would you have wanted her? Would you have been a better choice? The crowd erupted, not with laughter, not with joy, with shock, with gasps, with the sound of 300 people realizing they were witnessing something spectacular and terrible, something they'd talk about for years, something that would become legendary in the worst possible way, and I stood there at the center of it, the bride who made a joke, the woman who destroyed her own wedding, the person everyone would remember as the cautionary tale. Daniel held the microphone, looked at it like it was a weapon, looked at his brother with betrayal, looked at me with something like pity, and then he made his choice. He didn't defend me, didn't laugh it off, didn't try to minimize the damage. He chose honesty, chose his brother, chose to end me completely. No, he said into the microphone, clear, firm, final. I would never marry someone who joked like that, especially not during vows, especially not at the altar, especially not in front of everyone she's supposed to love and respect. And each word was a knife, each sentence was a judgment, each breath was another nail in my coffin. But he wasn't done. He had more. Something he'd been holding. Something I'd hoped would stay hidden. Something that was about to make everything infinitely worse. And for the record, he continued, and I felt my legs start to give out because I knew what was coming. You tried flirting with me during the engagement dinner. I didn't tell him. Maybe I should have. The sound that came from the crowd wasn't human. It was pure shock crystallized into noise. 300 people gasping simultaneously. 300 people realizing the joke wasn't just a joke, that there was history, that there was truth buried in my words, that I'd actually considered his brother, had actually made a move, had actually done something unforgivable that was only now coming to light. My almost husband nodded slowly, like he'd expected this, like he'd known, like he'd been waiting for confirmation of something he'd suspected all along. And I realized, he knew, he'd always known, had probably talked to his brother, had probably asked, had probably been carrying this knowledge for months, and I just handed him the perfect moment to expose it, to humiliate me, to destroy me in front of everyone who mattered. I started, but he cut me off, turned to me with those cold, calm eyes, and said, "You wanted a different groom. Choose, him or the exit." And the way he said it, the absolute authority, the complete control, the utter lack of emotion, it was terrifying, more terrifying than anger, more final than yelling, more devastating than anything else he could have done. The crowd waited, silent, breathless, every phone recording, every eye watching, every person present knowing they were witnessing the end of something, the death of a relationship, the destruction of a wedding, the public execution of a marriage that never got to begin. And I was the one being executed. By my own words, by my own actions, by my own terrible, terrible judgment. It wasn't like that, I tried to explain, my voice shaking, tears starting, mascara probably already running. The engagement dinner, I was drunk. I said something stupid. It wasn't flirting. It was just, "Choose," he repeated, not asking, not discussing, just demanding. Choose the brother, or choose to leave. Choose to double down on my joke, or choose to walk away from everything. Choose humiliation, or choose abandonment. "I choose you," I said desperately. "I've always chosen you. That's why I'm here. That's why I said yes. That's why I planned this wedding. The joke was stupid. The engagement dinner was nothing. I choose you. I love you. Please." But even as I said it, I could see it wasn't enough. See that he was done. See that this was over. See that he'd already made his decision and nothing I said would change it. He stepped aside, actually physically moved out of the way, pointed down the aisle, pointed toward the exit, pointed toward my future without him, and said, "Then walk." Not, "We'll talk about this later." Not, "Let's work through this." Just walk. Just leave. Just remove yourself from this wedding, this relationship, this life. Just go. "No," I whispered. "No, please, we can fix this. We can talk. We can—" But he shook his head. Final, decisive. Done. And the officiant, reading the room, quietly closed his book. The symbolic gesture. The acknowledgement that this ceremony was over, that this wedding would not be completing, that these two people would not be getting married today. The book closed like a coffin lid, sealing my fate. "Walk," my almost husband said again. Firmer, louder, making sure everyone heard, making sure everyone knew, making sure everyone understood that he was the one ending this, that he was the one with power, that he was the one choosing to remove me rather than me choosing to leave. He was controlling the narrative, controlling the ending, controlling everything, and I had no choice, no options, no way out except the one he was offering. So I started walking, down the aisle, away from the altar, away from my almost husband, away from the wedding I'd planned, away from the life I'd imagined, away from everything. And with each step, I felt the weight of 300 people watching, 300 people judging, 300 people capturing this moment on their phones to share later, to gossip about, to turn into the story they tell at parties. My bouquet slipped from my shaking hands, hit the ground, rose petals scattering, but I didn't stop to pick it up, just kept walking, kept moving, kept putting distance between me and the altar where my wedding had died, where my relationship had ended, where my entire future had evaporated because I couldn't stop myself from making one stupid joke. Behind me, I heard him speak again, heard him address the crowd, heard him say, "Let's cancel the reception. There's nothing to celebrate." And even that, even the way he announced it, calm, controlled, reasonable, making sure everyone knew he was the rational one, the victim, the person who'd been disrespected, while I was the villain, the person who'd ruined everything, the bride who joked about marrying the wrong brother at her own wedding. I reached the end of the aisle, pushed through the doors, found myself outside the venue, alone, in my wedding dress, hair done, makeup done, well, makeup ruined now from crying, full wedding regalia with nowhere to be wedded, just standing there in the parking lot, trying to process what had just happened, trying to understand how I'd destroyed my entire life in under 5 minutes, trying to figure out what came next. I heard footsteps, turned. It was my maid of honor, my best friend, the one person I thought might comfort me, might support me, might help me through this. But the look on her face, it wasn't sympathy, it wasn't comfort, it was disappointment. "What were you thinking?" she asked. "What the hell were you thinking?" "It was a joke," I said automatically. "A stupid joke. I didn't mean—" "You never mean it," she interrupted. "That's your problem. You never mean it, but you always say it. And now look where you are." She walked back inside, left me there alone. And I realized everyone would leave, everyone would take his side, everyone would agree I'd been inappropriate, disrespectful, wrong. Nobody would defend me. Nobody would say, it was just a joke and he overreacted. Because it wasn't just a joke. It was a pattern. It was who I was. It was the thing I did that hurt people, and I'd finally hurt someone badly enough that they'd fought back. I saw venue staff coming out, removing decorations, taking down the sign that had our names on it, dismantling the wedding that never was, moving efficiently, professionally, like this happened all the time. Like brides got left at the altar regularly enough that they had a procedure for it, unmaking everything we'd spent months planning, erasing me from the venue, from the day, from the narrative. My phone started buzzing, messages flooding in, not support, not comfort, just people who'd been at the wedding sharing what happened, probably posting videos, probably making me viral, probably turning my humiliation into content, into entertainment, into the thing everyone talks about for the next few weeks before moving on to the next scandal, while I'm left living with the consequences forever. I tried calling him. It rang once, then went to voicemail. He'd declined it, had probably blocked me already, had probably decided that conversation was over, that we were over, that there was nothing more to say. And he was right. What could I say? Sorry I joked about marrying your brother at our wedding. Sorry I flirted with him at the engagement dinner. Sorry I'm the kind of person who makes inappropriate jokes at the worst possible times. None of it would fix anything. None of it would change what happened. None of it would give me my wedding back. I sat down on the curb, right there in the parking lot, in my wedding dress, on the concrete, not caring that it was getting dirty, not caring that I looked insane, not caring about anything except the crushing weight of what I'd done, what I'd lost, what I'd destroyed with my own mouth, my own inability to just be normal, just be appropriate, just be the person he deserved instead of the person I actually am. A car pulled up. My mother. She must have left the ceremony early, must have come to find me, must have realized I'd need someone. She got out, looked at me sitting on the curb, looked at the venue behind me with staff removing decorations, looked at my ruined makeup and dirty dress, and she said the worst thing she could have said, the thing that hurt more than anything else. I warned you. I told you your mouth would ruin your life someday. And here we are. She was right. She'd warned me, multiple times, about my inappropriate jokes, about my terrible timing, about my habit of saying things I didn't mean in ways that hurt people anyway. And I'd brushed it off, told her she was being overdramatic, told her I was just funny, told her people needed to lighten up. And now I was sitting on a curb in a wedding dress with no wedding because I couldn't lighten up at the one moment I needed to be serious. Get in the car, my mother said, not sympathetic, not comforting, just practical, just moving forward, just dealing with the problem that was me. And I got in. Let her drive me away from the venue, away from the wedding, away from the 300 people who would now forever remember me as that bride, the one who joked about marrying the wrong brother, the one whose wedding imploded at the altar, the one who became a cautionary tale. We drove in silence. I stared out the window, watched the world continuing normally, watched people living their lives, watched cars and pedestrians and everything moving forward while I felt completely frozen, completely stuck in that moment at the altar, that moment when I realized I'd said something unforgivable, that moment when I watched him turn cold, that moment when I understood my joke had just ended everything. What happens now? I asked, my voice small, childish, lost. Now you figure out your life, my mother said. Now you deal with the consequences. Now you learn that words matter, that timing matters, that respect matters. Now you grow up. Now you become someone who thinks before speaking. Now you carry this with you forever as a reminder of what happens when you don't take important things seriously. And she was right. This would follow me forever. The bride who joked about the wrong brother, the woman whose wedding ended at the altar, the person who destroyed her own life with one sentence. Every future relationship would be haunted by this. Every future partner would eventually ask, "Why did your engagement end?" And I'd have to explain, would have to relive this, would have to reveal that I'm the kind of person who makes jokes at inappropriate times and pays devastating prices for them. We pulled up to my apartment, the one I'd been planning to move out of after the wedding, the one that was supposed to be temporary, the one that was now going to be home for the foreseeable future because I wasn't getting married, wasn't moving into the house we'd bought together, wasn't starting the life we'd planned, was just going back to my small apartment alone with a wedding dress and no wedding. I got out, dress dragging on the ground, heels clicking on the pavement, and I looked up at my building, at my old life, at my non-married existence, and I felt the full weight of it, the loneliness, the humiliation, the knowledge that everyone who mattered had witnessed my destruction, that this wasn't something I could hide or minimize or laugh off. This was public, permanent, posted online probably, viral by morning definitely. I went inside, climbed the stairs, unlocked my door, stepped into my apartment, and I saw it, my phone, left on the counter that morning when everything was still okay, when I was still getting married, when I was still someone's bride-to-be instead of someone's cautionary tale. And it was filled with notifications, hundreds of them, messages, tags, posts, videos, screenshots, everyone sharing what happened, everyone spreading my humiliation, everyone ensuring I could never escape this moment. I opened one video, watched it from someone else's perspective, saw myself standing at the altar, heard my stupid joke, watched his face change, watched Daniel walk up the aisle, heard the exposure, saw myself standing there frozen, watched my walk of shame down the aisle, and I looked pathetic, sounded pathetic, was pathetic, and now 300 people had captured it, and thousands more were watching it, and millions more might eventually see it. And I had to live, knowing my most humiliating moment was entertainment for strangers. I sat on my couch, still in my wedding dress, still in full makeup, what was left of it, still wearing the veil I'd chosen so carefully, still looking like a bride with no wedding, and I whispered to myself what I'd been thinking since it happened, what I'd probably think for the rest of my life. It was just a joke. I didn't mean it. I didn't think he'd actually do that. But he did do that. He called my bluff, exposed my pattern, made me face consequences for once in my life, made me understand that some jokes aren't jokes, some moments aren't for humor, sometimes require seriousness and respect and basic human decency. And I'd failed all of that. Failed spectacularly. Failed publicly. Failed permanently. And now I had to live with it. Had to carry it. Had to become someone who understood that words matter. That timing matters. That jokes can destroy everything when told at the wrong moment. I had to become someone who thought before speaking, who considered consequences, who understood that not everything is funny, who learned this lesson in the most painful, public, humiliating way possible. At my wedding, I joked I should have married his brother, so he invited him to the altar. And my wedding ended before it began, and my relationship died in front of 300 people, and I became the story everyone tells as a warning, and I have to live with that, forever. The bride who couldn't stop joking, the woman who destroyed her own wedding, the person who learned too late that some moments demand silence instead of jokes, and late at night, alone in my apartment, still sometimes in that wedding dress, because I don't know what else to do with it, I replay that moment, that sentence, that joke, and I wish I could go back, wish I could stay silent, wish I could just say my vows normally like every other bride, wish I could have had my wedding, my marriage, my life. But I can't go back, can only go forward, can only carry this, can only be the person whose wedding became a cautionary tale, the person who proves that words matter, that jokes can destroy, that timing is everything, and that sometimes when you joke about marrying the wrong person, the right person decides you should follow through, by leaving entirely. Days pass, the videos go viral, exactly as I feared. Someone's TikTok of my wedding disaster gets millions of views. The comments are brutal. She deserved it. What kind of person jokes like that at their own wedding? The brother exposing her flirting with chef's kiss. This is the best wedding fail I've ever seen. I'm not a person to them. I'm content. I'm entertainment. I'm the punchline. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. Nothing I can do to control the narrative. Nothing I can do except watch my humiliation spread across the internet like wildfire. My friends stop responding, not dramatically, just slowly. My texts go unanswered. My calls go ignored. My attempts to explain what happened are met with red receipts and silence. Because they were his friends too. Because they saw what I did. Because nobody wants to associate with the person who became that viral video. The cautionary tale. The example of what not to do. I'm toxic now. Poisonous. Someone to avoid unless you want to be associated with disaster. I try to go to work. Can't do it. Everyone knows. Everyone saw. The receptionist gives me a look. Co-workers whisper. My boss pulls me aside and suggests I take some time off. Until this blows over, she says. But we both know it won't blow over. This is the internet. This is permanent. This is my legacy now. The bride who joked about the wrong brother and became a meme. The woman whose wedding ended at the altar in front of 300 people and millions of viewers. I stay home, order groceries online, avoid going out, avoid seeing people, avoid the looks and the whispers and the recognition. Because people recognize me now. The video was that popular. My face is that identifiable. I'm that bride, that woman, that cautionary tale. And when people see me, they don't see a person. They see a story. They see entertainment. They see proof that actions have consequences and bad behavior gets punished publicly. His brother messages me, Daniel, the one who exposed me, the one who told everyone about the engagement dinner, the one who chose his brother over protecting me. And his message is short. I'm sorry it happened that way. But he asked me to be honest. And you did flirt with me. Maybe you didn't mean to. Maybe you were drunk. But you did. And he deserved to know. And everyone deserved to hear the truth. I hope you understand why I couldn't lie for you. And I want to be angry. Want to rage at him for exposing me. For making it worse. For not just staying silent when I was already destroyed. But he's right. He was asked directly. Put on the spot. Given a microphone in front of 300 people. What was he supposed to do? Lie? Protect me? Choose me over his own brother? Of course he chose his brother. Of course he told the truth. Of course he made sure everyone knew I wasn't innocent. That my joke wasn't random. That there was history. That I'd actually considered him. That I'd actually made a move. I write back. I understand. You did the right thing. I'm sorry I put you in that position. And I mean it. I'm sorry he got dragged into my mess. Sorry he had to stand at an altar and publicly reject me. Sorry his name is now attached to this story. Sorry that my stupidity affected his life too, even though his part is minor compared to mine. Even though he's barely mentioned in the videos. Even though he's seen as the hero who exposed the inappropriate bride. He still got dragged into something that wasn't his fault. He doesn't respond. And I don't expect him to. There's nothing more to say. Nothing that would make this better. Nothing that would change what happened. We're both just characters in a story that went viral. That became bigger than any of us. That will follow me forever and fade from his life eventually. Because men don't carry shame the same way. Men don't get branded by one moment the same way. He'll be fine. And I'll be the bride from that video for the rest of my life. I think about reaching out to my almost husband, writing a letter, trying to explain, trying to apologize properly, trying to make him understand that I didn't actually want his brother, that the joke was just my broken coping mechanism, that I loved him and chose him and wanted only him. But what's the point? He's made his position clear. He's moved on. He's probably relieved he didn't actually marry me. Probably grateful I revealed who I was before we legally bound ourselves together. Probably telling people he dodged a bullet. And maybe he did. Maybe I am that bullet. Maybe I'm exactly the kind of person who would have destroyed him slowly. Who would have made inappropriate jokes throughout our marriage. Who would have disrespected him constantly. Who would have compared him to others regularly. Who would have been a terrible wife. Maybe he saw that. Saw who I really was. and made the hard choice to end it dramatically, but definitively, before it could get worse. My therapist, I start seeing one after the panic attacks begin, asks me why I made the joke, what I was really trying to achieve, and I don't have a good answer. I was nervous, I wanted to lighten the mood, I thought it would be funny. But she pushes deeper. Was there truth in it? Did you actually wish you'd married his brother? And I have to sit with that question. Really sit with it. And I realize, I don't know. I don't know if I actually wanted Daniel, or if I just wanted someone different. Someone who represented a path not taken. Someone who felt like an escape from the commitment I was making. You weren't ready to get married, she says gently. And instead of acknowledging that, instead of postponing, instead of having an honest conversation, you sabotaged it. You said something unforgivable at the exact moment it would cause maximum damage. That's not an accident. That's your subconscious protecting you from a commitment you weren't ready for. And maybe she's right. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was terrified. Maybe standing at that altar I realized I was about to promise forever to someone and I panicked. And my panic came out as a joke, as an inappropriate comment, as self-sabotage disguised as humor. Maybe I destroyed my own wedding on purpose, without consciously realizing that's what I was doing. So what now, I ask her. Now you figure out why you sabotage, why you use humor inappropriately, why you can't commit, why you destroy things before they can hurt you, and you work on it so you don't do this again. So the next relationship, if there is one, doesn't end the same way. But will there be a next relationship? Will anyone want to date the bride from that video? Will anyone trust me not to make inappropriate jokes? Will anyone believe I'm capable of being serious when it matters? Will anyone risk being with someone whose last relationship ended in such spectacular public fashion? I don't know. And sitting in my therapist's office, paying money to be told I sabotaged my own wedding, I don't have hope that the answer is yes. Months pass, the video stops trending, new scandals emerge, new content takes over. People move on to the next disaster, the next cautionary tale, the next bride doing something terrible. And I'm yesterday's news, old content, something people saw once and forgot. Except I haven't forgotten, can't forget, because I lived it. Because it's my life. Because every day I wake up and remember I'm the woman from that video, even if nobody else remembers anymore. I run into someone from the wedding, a distant cousin of his. We're at the same coffee shop. She recognizes me, and I brace for judgment, for condemnation, for more shame. But instead she says, "I'm sorry that happened to you. It must have been awful." And the unexpected sympathy breaks me. Makes me cry right there in public, makes me realize how starved I am for kindness, for understanding, for someone acknowledging that it was awful, that I suffered, that I'm not just a villain in a story, but a person who got hurt too. "Thank you," I managed to say. "I made a terrible mistake, but the punishment felt extreme." She nods. "It was extreme. He was cruel. Making you stand there while he called his brother up. While Daniel exposed you. While 300 people watched. That was cruel. You said something stupid, but what he did was calculated. That's worse in some ways. And I hadn't thought about it like that, hadn't allowed myself to see him as anything but justified in his response. But she's right. What he did was premeditated, was revenge, was designed to humiliate me as publicly as possible, was meant to destroy me. And while I started it with my joke, he escalated it into something nuclear, into something I couldn't recover from, into something that would haunt me forever. He's not some perfect victim, she continues. He's someone who planned public humiliation instead of just cancelling the wedding privately. Someone who used his brother as a weapon. Someone who made sure 300 people witnessed your destruction. That's vindictive. That's cruel. That's not just defending himself. That's attacking you. And permission to be angry, to see myself as wrong too, it changes something. I'm still guilty of making the joke. still responsible for the flirting at the engagement dinner, still the person who started this disaster. But I'm not the only guilty party. He could have handled it differently, could have pulled me aside, could have ended things privately, could have shown mercy instead of revenge. But he chose revenge, chose public execution, chose to make me viral. And that choice was his. That cruelty was his. That's on him. I start to rebuild, slowly, painfully, accepting applications for new jobs in new cities where people might not recognize me, where the video might not have reached, where I could potentially start over without my past following me. I interview remotely, get offers, choose one across the country, pack up my life, leave behind the city where I became a cautionary tale, where I'm known as that bride, where I can't escape my past. The moving truck arrives. I watch my furniture being loaded, watch my possessions being boxed, watch my life in this city ending, and I feel relief. Relief that I'm leaving. Relief that I might get a fresh start. Relief that maybe, possibly, I can become someone new. Someone who learned from this. Someone who doesn't make jokes at inappropriate times. Someone who thinks before speaking. Someone who respects serious moments. Someone who doesn't sabotage herself. My last night in town, I drive past the wedding venue. It's hosting another event, another couple's special day, and I park across the street, just sit there, looking at the place where my wedding died, where my life changed, where I became the woman I am now instead of the woman I could have been. And I whisper to myself one more time. It was just a joke. But it wasn't just a joke. It was self-sabotage. It was terror disguised as humor. It was me protecting myself from commitment by destroying it before it could destroy me. It was me being my own worst enemy. It was me proving everyone right who said I wasn't ready, who said I wouldn't make a good wife, who said I'd ruin everything. I proved them right. Spectacularly. Publicly. Permanently. I drive away. Leave that venue behind. Leave that city behind. Leave that version of myself behind. And I head toward my new life. My fresh start. My opportunity to become someone better. Someone who learned. Someone who grew. Someone who carries the shame of what happened but doesn't let it define every future moment. The drive is long. Gives me time to think, to process, to plan, to imagine who I want to be in this new place, how I want to show up, what I want to change, and I make promises to myself. I will think before I speak. I will respect serious moments. I will not use humor as a shield. I will face my fears instead of sabotaging. I will be honest about my readiness instead of pretending. I will communicate instead of joking. I will be better. I arrive in my new city. Unpack my boxes. Set up my new apartment. Start my new job. Meet new people. And when they ask about my past, about my relationships, about why I moved, I tell them a version of the truth. I made mistakes. I hurt someone I loved. I learned from it. And now I'm here trying to do better. Not the full story. Not the viral video. Not the wedding disaster. Just the basics. Just enough truth to be honest without revealing everything. Just enough information to move forward without my past completely defining me.